Here is the highly requested spiritual checklist. I consulted my spirit guide, my forever spirit guide, to get any other information I might have not thought of off the top of my head. And this checklist is something you can go through and be like, hey, I'm feeling like this, and see if any of these things could be sort of the cause or influence, something you need to tune into. Keep in mind, this isn't unanimous all the time for every situation. This is just the most common things that I have both found personally helpful, I've seen be helpful for other individuals, and I am very surprised how often it pops up. So it's not a replacement for every time you're feeling a certain way. It's just you'd be surprised how helpful it can be when this pops up. So let's go over this. First one, do I have a ghost or a middle world being attached to me? Now this is something I don't normally put out there, and when I say this, please keep a cool head. Everything has a solution. It's not a big deal. It's incredibly common and super easy to remove. But ghosts and middle world beings can attach themselves to you. And when they do, they can put some intrusive thoughts into your head. Oftentimes with ghosts, a ghost will attach to you that actually had a similar sort of thing they couldn't let go of in their lifetime. And so they're just repeating this never-ending sort of discouragement or feeling towards yourself that maybe they too also felt. But because it is no different in tonal voice to your own inner monologue, people often get confused and start to get brought down by this because they never feel like they get a break from it. Little do they know, part of that inner monologue isn't even them. And middle world beings really like to add a ton of discouragement, jealousy, thinking the worst of yourself, really intense things. Ghosts are more varied, but middle world beings will do more that type of focus. And when this happens, like I said, it's hard to differentiate your own voice, and so you start to listen to it, you get in your feelings about it, and it's a simple removal. I made a whole video going into the details of middle world beings and their actual spiritual purpose, and they're actually good in the system. Everything's there for a reason, and how to remove and everything like that. But just to remind you, the way you remove it is you say to yourself and your spirit guide, you could say you're like your higher self, angels, but I would highly recommend spirit guides, and say, hey, spirit guide, can you please remove, if it's a ghost or a middle world being, you don't even have to be specific, hey, ghost, spirit guide, can you please remove this ghost or middle world being, and wait a second, like meditate on it, just take 1 minute to be quiet, let it happen, set that intention, and boom, it's done, it's gone, it's off you. Keep in mind, there is sometimes like an integration time period. It depends on how open you are. Sometimes integration time can take like a couple days or a couple weeks to really feel that sense of removal. But you would be shocked how common it happens and how often it happens. So there is a possibility that essentially it's attached to you and you want to remove it. Next, do I have any soul fragment loss? I made a super in-depth video the other day explaining all of this if you need to go back and understand why it happens and how it happens and all that jazz. And I even have a guided meditation as to how to get them back. Now, when you have your soul fragmented and lost like that, or another individual's holding it, you can often feel like jaded or empty, or it's hard to connect to ideas of like love or loving yourself. There's like a sense of emptiness that can't be filled, or sometimes another individual is sort of holding on to it for you, and as they're holding on to it, you're like, I just can't let it go. I just keep being drawn to them. And you can get that soul fragment loss and at least take away that intense pull so you can then make your own decisions. As well as if you're trying to connect to those things and feel more like yourself, that'd be nice to have a whole soul. We're meant to have a whole soul, so you can go check that out. Now this is some stuff my spirit guide was adding. They said, have you done something to care for yourself today? They said to acknowledge their existence, your existence, to start to give it attention. That when you care for yourself, you're giving your own sense of existence and being like, oh yeah, hello, hi, I'm a person. Here I'm a predominant person in my own life. And they said sometimes you guys, can put other activities ahead of their own being. And to care for yourself brings themselves to be the most important thing, being, subject in your own life. This is something really interesting that I have found was surprisingly effective. This also is paired on the checklist with the idea of, have you given your inner being attention? You can essentially do both of these things by meditating and looking inside yourself and imagining like a glowing, formless being, and it's essentially you inside the vessel that's your inner being. And when you give yourself care and attention, you can have like a cute little like at-home spa day, or maybe you're just relaxing and tuning into yourself. We're not talking about tuning out. We're not just talking about sitting down watching TV and you feel like you're giving all your attention to TV. It's about paying attention to you. When you give yourself and separately your inner being attention, it gets fueled. And the more it gets fueled and energized, the less we take things so sensitively, the less we're affected by others' energy, vibes, words, and the more we can think clearly. Because a lot of the times the reason why people are upset is they are asleep, so to speak. And they are asleep because they're not giving that inner being, as well as just themselves, enough attention to like wake up and think properly. So they do things that from an outside perspective are not like bad. We're not trying to put a label of good and bad, but they do things that disconnect themselves unintentionally. And the more we sort of give ourselves attention, the more we wake up and go, oh, wait a minute, I'm the most important thing in my life. But when we forget that along the way, the inner monologue becomes, oh, I got to get this done. If I don't get this done, I'm not going to be successful. And I got to get this done because if I get this done, I don't have to worry about it later. And then I got to do this and I got to get up early. And you think you're thinking about yourself, but you're thinking about all the activities and things you're going to do and dreams. You're not actually paying attention and being like, hello, I am a person. Hello, person. And you're charging yourself up, so to speak. And sometimes without that charge, we start to feel that displacement. Often it comes with anxiety. Often it comes with self-doubt. Often it comes with like losing our way and focusing so much on things that are actually not going to help us accomplish our goals and concepts and ideas. You know what I'm saying? Let me look at my list. This is what my spirit guide added. Am I currently being affected by that situation that's happening right now, or a past life experience? Now, I made a really in-depth topic about past lives on my Spiritual Talks video on my YouTube page, super in-depth, but I'd be happy to do additional content on that, as well as do a guided meditation for past life, so you can go experience a past life and all that jazz. But keep in mind, if you're enjoying my intuition course, when you go to the spirit realm and you're hanging out with spirit guides, you can just say to your spirit guides, hey, I'd like to experience a past life. But more specifically, when you're being affected by a past life, you would be absolutely shocked how much past lives can affect you on the daily. And we're not just talking about emotional reactions, or you're like, I don't know why, I just don't like that person. Or you're like, I don't know why, but someone just doesn't like me. It could go either way. And you'd be shocked how much it's a past life thing. Or having an inexplainable fear, or just kind of getting really fixated on like a cycle habit or a fixation of like getting something done or something like that. But also like one time I had a past life and I just like out of nowhere was absolutely exhausted. It didn't make sense. Like I couldn't explain it. It just happened on a whim and I just couldn't stay awake. And I felt almost like this weight and this heaviness on me. Keep in mind, middle world beings can also take a lot of your energy too. So sometimes if you feel that way, it's a middle world being affected you. We're talking about how to remove them. You can remove them. It's not a big deal. But I then was like, hey, spirit guide, went to the spirit realm, was like, why is this happening? And they were like, you have triggered a past life, and that past life has come through, and we can go essentially cross it over and get it out of, you basically experience it, and then you talk to your past life self in order to fix whatever needs to be fixed. You help them cross over to the veil, and then it no longer is influencing you. And one of my past lives, I had died in an avalanche climbing a mountain, and the snow had kind of made me fall asleep. And keep in mind, it's not always how you go out. Sometimes it's just a thing in life you experienced. And it doesn't always have to be super intense. It could be really minute. You'd be surprised what you can't let go of. It's not so much karma as in doing bad things. It's karma as in you couldn't let it go kind of thing. So that was what was influencing me. And I cleared it instantly. I had all this energy and I was awake, and I was very surprised how that affected me. So you'd be shocked how much that stuff affects you. And essentially you're checking in to see if that is the possibility and then to cross it over, remove it. If you would like me to, I'd be happy to make a guided meditation to walk you guys through that process. And just to continue on that subject, by the way, so you're asking yourself too, like, am I currently upset about this, or am I being affected by that? You know what I mean? Then, this one kind of surprised me, my spirit guide added. They said, when it comes to physical stuff, what mantras are you telling yourself over and over throughout the day? And, pardon me, this is something you have to be kind of self-aware about. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's really obvious, like let's say you suffer from headaches and you just keep telling yourself over and over again, I suffer from headaches, I suffer from headaches, I suffer from it. And you just keep saying it. It's like, yeah, you're experiencing it more. You're telling yourself that's what it is. But sometimes it's like a negative experience or negative, what's it called? Like environment, and you just keep talking about it. You're like, I hate that X, Y, and Z has happened, blah, blah, blah. And it might be really minute, but depending on where you're at or whatever your being is sort of trying to help motivate you to get off of it, it's trying to send you a physical cue to be like, stop talking about this. Yeah, but it's happening. Stop talking about it. It's only in your reality if you keep bringing it into your reality and talking about it. It's not happening now. You keep repeating it now, and so sort of that can pop up, which I thought was kind of interesting. So it doesn't always have to be the mantra you tell yourself of how you're being. It can be like something that doesn't mesh with you in that kind of way, and that can be sort of like a cue for it. Is the energy from you or an outside vibe? Is the inner sorry, I'm reading my notes. Apologies for that mess up. Are you basically being influenced by the energy from you, like you're feeling a certain type of way? Or is there an outside vibe or influence from people or an area? Because I'm telling you right now, sometimes when really big events happen in the world, people who do not know that they are aware of that type of stuff and pick that stuff up, they're just like, man, I am just feeling off and weird and like heavy and dense. And little do they know they're picking up that energy. Or little do you know, maybe your like neighbor is like putting out a weird vibe and you're like, I don't know why, because you're never interacting with them and you're like, I'm just picking up that energy or vibe. Or maybe it's a sort of residue that's been left in a place and those people or situations are gone, but the vibe's still there. You can totally clear this out. Now keep in mind, I'd actually really love, let me know if you guys are interested in this. I've been trying to, for a long time, help people basically be more psychic and in tune with their psychicness. But I try the best I can to make something that everyone can vibe with. So if people are like, I just don't process frequencies the way you do, I try to make it as like universally open to everyone. But there are ways you can do psychic stuff and like, I can be like, this is how you do it with your mind kind of thing. But for some people that doesn't translate. If you want more in-depth stuff, I'd be happy to go into that. That's actually kind of the inspiration for my intuition course. Essentially, that's sort of like the starting gates of like getting into that sphere and the connections unlock stuff. You get the gist. So I'm just going to say for blanket general audience statement, you can just ask your spirit guide, if you're vibing with angels, whomever, and be like, hey, there's like an energy. Could you like remove that energy? And then if you're interested, let me know. I'll make a separate video of being like how you remove the energy. But anyways, you can get that energy removed. But again, sometimes you're picking this stuff up and you're like, man, I guess I'm just like feel bad about myself today. I guess and little do you know you're being influenced by the vibe and energy from nearby, if it's big enough in the world or something like that. It just depends. Remember though, when we pay attention to our inner being and us as a person, we're not affected by that stuff as much. I say this as someone who used to be like, could not handle, was like, oh my God, I can feel everyone's emotions around me, like too much. I am like so much more in control of my energy than I was before. So it can grow, it can get significantly better. I'm telling you that right now, from personal experience. Then, I added that one, by the way, the special vibe one. I also added this one. Do I need a spiritual upgrade? Am I currently not compatible with my current vessel? Again, I did a super in-depth drawings and everything explaining what spiritual upgrades are. But essentially, if you're not familiar with that video, it's on it's a spiritual talks video on my YouTube. And by the way, if you want, let me know. Would you guys like me to sometimes repost my spiritual talks videos over here? So if I'm like, blah, 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 past life, and you're not familiar with it, I can just like post it. And then when you're scrolling through Patreon, it's like, there it is. I can go click it and watch it or remind myself. Would you guys like that? I don't want to like, it's meant to be new stuff. Like, but does that interest you? Just let me know. Not a big deal. I can copy and paste that over here. Anyways, when you are having epiphanies, you can hit a certain point where you are no longer compatible with this vessel you have. And essentially, you get upgraded by your spirit guides when you are sleeping. You can be awake doing it, but most of the time, most people are asleep when it's happening. But in the process, before, as you've had these epiphanies, you're no longer compatible with this vessel, the vessel gets upgraded on a spiritual level, there can be a time period where you're like, man, I just feel weird, and like I can't place it, and it's making me anxious. And again, see how a lot of these feelings like run into each other, which is why we don't make blanket statements about stuff. I can give you some similar symptoms, but I'd have to hear like someone's story to be like, that's like, as the experience I have, when I hear someone's story, I can personally be like, oh, that's it. But I don't want to make a blanket statement because everyone processes emotions differently. But nonetheless, then sometimes if you feel bizarre or weird, for both myself and other individuals, when they find out, they're like, oh, I just need an upgrade. I'm just going to not give these emotions weight. I'm going to get an upgrade tonight. Not a big deal. And then it goes from being like, man, is something off? Do I need to go fix something in my life? Maybe I'm just not as good as a person I used to be. You could stop yourself and go, whoa, not a big deal. I'm just kind of feeling bizarre because I need compatibility. And depending on how open you are, your spirit guides can be like, would you like that upgrade right now? And then you can receive it right then and then feel better. Also, keep in mind there are integration times just like the ghosts and middle world beings, but nonetheless, very helpful. And then the last, I already talked about inner being, enough attention. Oh yeah, that's everything. Okay, cool. I will put the list also, I will write the list underneath this so you can look at it. But please, please tell other people to watch the whole video, because if you're looking at it, it's not going to make the same kind of sense as when you hear the explanation for everything. So you just kind of go through, and with every single thing, you can just consult your spirit guide and just simply be like, hey, can you bring my soul back? Hey, can you get this middle world being? Hey, can you remove this energy? Or you pay attention to your energy and individual. But if you do want to get more hands-on with it and experiences all the cosmos of the world, I would highly recommend being familiar with traveling to the spirit realm, because that will make things a million times easier. It's easier to travel to the spirit realm sometimes than to get into certain states of meditation. So again, I have an intuition course if you're interested, but you can have your own methods however you get there. And then as you get there, I would be happy to explain some of my processes, how I do these things hands-on. If you want another video where I kind of go through this checklist again, but then how I personally do it in a very hands-on way. Especially some people I've seen on here are like workers themselves, and I would be happy to go into that, because then you can vibe and do it too. And maybe, little do you know, you can do this stuff too, because technically, I always want to leave on all this note, we can all do all of this stuff. All of us are infinite, all of us are compatible, all of us are one, all of us are equal, but you might not give yourself permission or be tapped into it yet until you try it out. So I'd be happy to go into more detail about how I'm doing. I'm just giving like basic, like here's an easy go, get it done in 2 seconds. Because even, I don't know what I'd call myself, light worker? I guess I'm a light worker. I'm a light worker. I don't know. I'm not afraid of working with the scary stuff either. I'm a worker. Even we sometimes are like, I gotta like one time I was going through a time period where I think I crossed over like in a short like 4-month time period, something like 2,000 past lives. So it was a lot of like, I'm talking like every 2 hours, it was like another past life thing I gotta cross over. And sometimes I'd be like, I'm going out the door. Like I'd be like, let's go. What do we gotta do to get it out? I hope you vibed with that. I hope you go through your checklist and go through them regularly, like a couple times a day. Whenever you feel something come up, like don't just instantly be like, I guess I feel like this. Whenever you don't feel like your best self, go through the checklist, see if something needs to happen. You know what I mean? And it just can make you feel like you have more control over your life, because you do. I love you. Bye.